Bar for bar album reviews. Westside Gunn 10. 10 is the latest and final installment in Westside Gunn's long-running HWH series, which started back in 2012. Now, with Westside Gunn, there's a few things to kind of keep in mind, and some things that you kind of learn as you listen to him and other members of Griselda, just in general. With Westside Gunn, most people, including myself, or at least I would assume other people as well, don't necessarily go to him strictly for the raps. Because while he does rap well, he's not always the person that's rapping his ass off, and he's not always going to be the best rapper in the room or on a track. And he's okay with that, because among all the other hats that he wears, such as like A&R, executive producer, label head, father, he's also a curator. And curation seems to be one of the things that he's best at. He excels at. Like, he puts together these projects that he may or may not rap fully on. Like, he may show up on a couple songs here and there, but the song as a whole, or the album as a whole, sorry, tends to be very well put together. And that's a trend that I really started to notice more so with the last HWH 8 and technically 9, even though side A and side B, but also with other artists' projects on Griselda itself. The most recent of those being, at least the one that I enjoyed, was the Rome Streets album, which unfortunately I did not review, but it was also one of those projects that, like, oh, I see what he's doing. I understand where the whole concept of the album is. I mean, yes, Rome Streets has a lot of say in that project as well, but Westside Gunn being the executive producer definitely helps out. I mean, we also got that a lot with the Makhami tape, Pray for Haiti, but that one's a little bit weird because it's technically a Griselda project, but Mach's not on Griselda, whatever. There's a whole lot of stuff going on that. But with Westside Gunn in just as his own, or on his own, sorry, he tends to come up with an idea and topic and just kind of run with it. With each album that he puts out, I go and I'm like, okay, well, what is he trying to accomplish here? Because he always has some sort of goal to the project. With HWH 8 and 9, the idea that I got was that he was going to go a little bit more into, like, let's showcase my new artists. Because at that time, he had just signed Rome Streets and Stove God and Jay Worthy, I believe. And I think there's a few other people that were recently signed at that time. But those are the main voices that you heard throughout those projects. With this project, we get a little bit of that and a little more, I guess. So with this project, as always, with the HWH, we start off with an intro from A.A. Rashid, where he just kind of goes somewhere. It's always interesting to listen to, but I don't know what point exactly he's trying to make at any given time. But right from there, you start to get into different sounds that, you don't necessarily hear Westside Gunn on. Like, the first actual song that we hear is Fly God Jr., which is a very, very much a trap beat, and is really, like, it is produced by his son, and I appreciate that. Like, his son's really into it. Fly God Jr.'s there, just making beats, and then they're having fun. They're having fun together. The feature Doughboy was also, it made sense there. And obviously, we have DJ Drama, who, I mean, he's here throughout the album, but this isn't really marketed as a Gangsta Grills tape. But, you can make the argument for it being that. Side note, has anyone else noticed that people are doing Gangsta Grills tapes way more often ever since Tyler's album? Or is it just me? Anyways, the album, just from that first song, you can tell that he's going to be doing stuff that he doesn't necessarily do normally, but still things that he, like, is still within his wheelhouse. But again, like I said, you're not going to hear him rapping all the time. Like, you do get a rap song right after Fly God Jr. with Super Kick Party, but after that, he kind of takes a back seat almost. You the best way for me to explain it is how Kendrick was on every track on the Black Panther soundtrack, but he really only had a verse on a handful of songs. Something kind of like that. Like he was always there, but he doesn't necessarily say anything, I guess. Another thing of note is the feature list, which I kind of alluded to with Doughboy, is pretty extensive. I mean, he has Doughboy, of course, then he has, and also like the typical like people from Griselda that you would expect, like Stove God, Rome Streets, Benny, Westside Gunn, Armani Caesar, Jay Worthy, etc. But we also have ASAP Rocky. We also have Black Star. We have Busta Rhymes, Raekwon, Ghostface. We have Run the Jewels. Like, there's so many features on this that, yeah, it really does just sound like at times a compilation album, which, you know, not a bad thing. I feel like honestly, if Westside Gunn got the opportunity to do like a DJ Khaled album, it would probably be better than most DJ Khaled albums. But yeah, no, that's just me. Anyways, the other thing with all these features that Westside Gunn, I guess, wanted to get across, and he said and mentioned in his Fantano interview, which you should check out if you're interested at all, is that every one of these features, he wanted it to sound like the first time you heard these artists. So when you hear Rocky on here, it's, you know, you get the distorted vocals that he, well, he doesn't really use as much nowadays, I guess, because he hasn't put anything out. But, you know, the distorted vocals that you used to hear him on, with Black Star, the production, I honestly thought or wished that it would have been Madlib on the beat, but we got Conductor Williams, who does a very good job. And honestly, I think I prefer his production more so than the Derringer style, but that's a discussion for another day. But also that Black Star, Yasin Bey and Talib verses were better than anything I heard on Black Star 2. I mean, at least the majority of it. I think it actually comes down to production because Madlib was kind of off his shits on that one. Anyways, going through the rest of the album, we have just, you know, moments where you're like, oh yeah, Westside Gunn's just having fun. And you see that with Nigo Louie, where you have Westside Pootie featured, which is one of his children, and they're just talking mad shit. They're like talking about how their baby brother got brought home in a Lamborghini. Y'all can't even spell Lamborghini. They got kicked out of class or something for talking back to the teacher, like, or for being fly. It's very fun. This then goes right into BDP, which features Rome Streets and Stove God. But the main reason I want to point that one out is because of the Montel feature. Like, Westside Gunn's the only person who can just kind of randomly throw in a sample and get it approved and just be like, yeah, no, I did that. But also going into the samples, I think I realized in general, not necessarily just with this album, but I think more so with the Boldy James and Nicholas Craven album, I tend to like production with samples a lot more than I thought I did. Anyways, going forward, that BDP track was fun. Science Class, which honestly, when I first heard it, I was like, what in the world is this? Because this is not the production that you would expect to hear on a Westside Gunn album. And then when you look at the producer, you see it's Swizz Beatz, and you're also just even further confused because that doesn't sound like something Swizz Beatz would necessarily do now. But it's a great track, and we start off with Busta Rhymes, and he's doing his like kind of calm but aggressive flow, and then we get Ghostface and Raekwon on here, and it's just they just all work so well together. Then we have, after that, God is Love, which honestly is a highlight for me. And as I was listening through the project again and again, I feel like that may have been a better outro track, just because obviously the Griselda bit, but because of how the song is structured. So in the first half of the song, we get, you know, just the traditional rapping, and we get verses from, I think, Stove God, and a little bit of a interlude, you could say, from Keisha Plum. But after that interlude, we get a little bit of a beat break, and we hear Eastside Flip rapping. Eastside Flip being the person who is on the cover art, and it's so solid. It's so good. Like the production goes from something a little bit more clean and polished to just like a recording from a phone speaker. Like it's like someone brought a boombox outside and started playing it, playing a beat. Someone recorded off their phone and had Eastside Flip just rap while they're recording it. Like it sounds so like I guess lo-fi, but it's still really good, and it's just like half the song where he just goes off. So that's also why I feel like it'd be a good outro song, because you have the man that's on the cover of your album featured on this track, and he just takes his time on it. But it does make sense as you go throughout the rest of the track listing to see like the sequencing here. Switches on everything. It's probably my least favorite song. I'm not gonna lie. It features Run the Jewels, which I'm always excited to see, but I think I'm just exhausted. Like I don't know. There were still good verses. LPs shouting out to Griselda and basically reciprocating the love that Westside Gunn has given him. Killer Mike's verse was pretty solid. I liked his flow on it, but it's fine. And Stove God's always on there, so Stove God's on pretty much every other track. Mac Don't Stop, I think, was a Pete Rock beat, because he keeps saying Pete Rock and the beat Don't Stop, or the Mac Don't Stop. Yeah, but it's another one of those interlude tracks where Westside Gunn doesn't necessarily say much, but it exists. It's not bad. I don't hate it. I'm not gonna skip it because I generally listen to albums all the way through. It's not like none of these songs are so bad that I'm like, no, I need to get to the next one. Like I will listen to every single song if I'm going to listen to this album. And then we end out with Red Death, which I am now drawing a blank as to why it is titled that. I know it's in remembrance of someone close to Westside Gunn. He's mentioned it in the interview as well, but it's a crew cut at the end of the day. It is a 10-minute, 23-second crew cut with everyone that he could find from Griselda. And it's weird because I didn't even realize that it was 10 minutes until just before I started recording this. It doesn't feel like it, but I think that's because everyone rapping on it just kind of has their own style, even though the beat is just it's a typical cypher beat sort of style. But yeah, it's a good way to end out the album based on having everyone on the track. But yeah, that ends out the album, and honestly, overall, I think this is one of my favorite Westside Gunn projects to date. Like, I really liked Pray for Paris. I really liked HWH 8 side A and B. And handful of albums here and there, but this one just feels the most not even cohesive, because like you do jump around a bit, but it's not too long. It runs just under 50 minutes, I believe, and there's enough variety, and that kind of goes back into the whole idea of Westside Gunn being a curator. Like, yeah, he can rap, yeah, he can get people everywhere, and he can A&R well, but at the end of the day, he really shines as a curator, and he can pull together these projects that just flow well together. They sound good together, or like each track, I mean, and it just is good. That's basically all I got to say about this album. I already mentioned a few of my favorite tracks, but honestly, most of it's really solid. I like God Is Love, Science Class, BDP, Papa's or Peppa's. Like, there's as I was going through this, I'm like, I don't know what my favorite song is because they're all good, but I think the best one, and the song that you have to listen to if you're listening to this album, is God Is Love. If you don't mind the first half, I guess. Like, I enjoy the first half. I know some people don't, but it is what it is. Yeah, that's all I've got in terms of the review for this project. I'm very excited to see where Michelle Records goes next, because that's supposed to be his next album. I'm also kind of sad that this is the finale to the HWH series, but I also understand it's 10 years. This is number 10. Fuck it, right? Like, why not? But that's all I've got. Let me know in the comments below what you guys thought of this project and what your favorite tracks are. Also, like and subscribe if you want to see more reviews like this. I hopefully will put out more frequent videos. We'll try. But with all that said, thank you for watching, and please stay safe out there.